À présent, j'ai maintenant le plaisir d'inviter Madame Natalia Kanem, directrice exécutive du Fonds des Nations Unies pour la population, à faire sa déclaration. Madame la directrice exécutive.
Merci beaucoup. Mr. Chairperson, Madame Secretary General, Your Majesty, Queen Mother of Bhutan, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, civil society colleagues, dear friends, it is an honor to address this 54th session of the Commission on Population and Development. Food is fundamental. The ICPD Program of Action called for measures, quote, to strengthen food, nutrition, and agricultural policies and programs, with special attention to the creation and strengthening of food security at all levels, end quote. In observing this year's theme, we must remember that on every continent, whether in development or humanitarian crisis, food insecurity is higher among women and within households. Too often, it is women and girls who eat last and least. Now, what was already bad has been made worse by COVID-19. The pandemic is causing a spike in poverty and consequently food insecurity and undernutrition, which in pregnancy increases the risk of low birth weight babies, obstructed labor, premature births, and maternal and newborn deaths. In short, poor nutrition spells disaster for pregnant women, for breastfeeding mothers and their newborns. In fact, nutrition programs count among the most cost-effective interventions for lifelong health, and pandemic or not, delivery of such programs must continue to benefit women and children. While the pandemic has been hard on everyone, older people, migrants, those living with disabilities, indigenous people, and people of African descent, young people facing disrupted education and obstacles to finding work, yet and still, our appeal and our plea is for the understanding that COVID indeed is a crisis with a woman's face, as we see an upsurge in gender-based violence, in child marriage, in adolescent pregnancy, and as barriers are thrown up to the normal protective sexual and reproductive health services. Food scarcity places women and girls in harm's way. It puts them at higher risk of violence, transactional sex, and other forms of exploitation and abuse. We see this in the terrible bargain made when someone vulnerable and hungry exchanges unwanted sex for shelter or food, or when desperate families agree to marry off young daughters. Of the many obstacles that still block women's path to equality, one of the most pervasive is the lack of bodily autonomy, the issue explored by UNFPA in the newly launched 2021 State of World Population Report titled, "My Body is My Own, Claiming the Right to Autonomy and Self-Determination." The report shows that in countries where we have data, nearly half of women lack the power to make their own decisions about whether to have sexual relations with their partner, to use contraception, or to seek health care. Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, the historic International Conference on Population and Development sat in Cairo 27 years ago, and it reached global consensus. Delegates from all regions recognized that health and well-being, including sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights, gender equality, and education, are at the very heart of development. This vision has been reiterated in multiple reviews, including the ICPD Beyond 2014 review. This very commission has linked successful implementation of the ICPD Program of Action to the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. The Nairobi Summit on ICPD 25 in 2019 reinvigorated the movement, mobilizing political will and civil society and private support to accelerate action on the ICPD agenda and the SDGs by 2030. Today, as we meet under the auspices of this landmark commission, we must show the world that this time, nourishing the aspirations of women and girls, and indeed everyone, will not escape our grasp. Let there be no obstacle to a resounding consensus that food security and nutrition underpin all sustainable development goals and are essential to human dignity and well-being. Food is fundamental. Therefore, end hunger in this decade of action. It is high time to regroup and recommit to a world free from hunger where all may enjoy good health and live without discrimination and without fear. I wish you productive deliberations this week and look forward to a successful consensus outcome for CPD 54. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci, Madame la directrice exécutive de l'UNFPA, pour votre déclaration.